My name is Alex. I know some of you know me, but let me tell you a little bit about me. So I'm originally from the Basque Country. Basque Country is a province in northern Spain, very close to France, pretty much like 2 hours. So growing up in the Basque Country was a little bit tough. I would say a lot of people have limiting beliefs. They don't have big goals. And since I was a little kid, I just knew that I was meant for more. I was meant for more than just the Basque Country. And I know probably you guys feel the same way. You guys know because you're sitting here. So you guys know that you're meant for more than just working a 9 to 5 or working for someone and you guys want to have your own business. And that's how I felt. I get chills because um, I used to tell friends and my teachers about my plans and they just laughed at me. Okay. So at 17, I got pissed off and I said, you know what? I'm going to prove you all wrong. So I came to the US. And since the moment I got to the country, I was involved in aviation. So I got my private pilot, got my instrument, became an AMP, worked in the field for 3 years, became a commercial pilot, got my CFI, became an ATP pilot, and I'm currently type rated in the Citation 10 and the Lear 45. And I've always been an entrepreneur or had the entrepreneurial spirit. And one day when I was talking to one of my coworkers when I was working as an AMP, we're just discussing, different business ideas and different goals. And he's the one that introduced me to aircraft sales. So anytime you hear something new, the first thing that you do is go to Google, try to find information. And back in that time, there wasn't that much information, but I found this program that I joined and I felt scammed because it did not provide the information and the knowledge that I needed to do this, in my opinion. And the reason why I'm here today is because of that experience. I had such a bad experience that I wanted to change that for everyone else. Okay. So 2018, I joined the program. I started my brokerage. Unlike Tom, I decided to start my own brokerage, now work for someone. So a lot of the things that I've learned throughout the years have been through trial and error and making big mistakes. So throughout my presentation, I'm going to tell you guys some of my experiences so you guys don't have to go through it, okay? So anyways, that's my story. So the first thing that we're gonna start talking about is how aviation works. And we're gonna talk about the 4 types of aircraft owners. This is important because this is our target. This is our audience, okay? So we have owner-operators. These are individuals who are pilots and they have a need for travel, okay? And they've been a pilot, maybe they've been flying, a piston aircraft or something like that, and maybe they want to upgrade to a jet. Now, just so you guys know, anytime the maximum takeoff weight of an aircraft is more than 12,500 hours, 12,500 pounds, you're going to get type rating. So if they're going from a piston to a jet, they're going to need a type rating for that. Then we have business owners. So these are individuals who have locations in different parts of the country or the world, offices, and they have a need for private travel to take themselves from different offices or take their executives, okay? Now, I will say that a big difference between both of them is the owner-operator is going to be more concerned about what type of avionics are in the aircraft, because they're going to be flying the airplane. So they care about what FMS. Is it Universal? Is it Honeywell? What is it? The avionics package. Is it the Primus 1000? Is it the Garmin? They're going to be worried about all these things. The business owner just doesn't care. They just want to sit in the back, okay? And usually they sit in the fourth seat facing forward on the right side. That's where the big boss sits. So they care about maybe the leather that was used, in the seats, how the interior looks, the amenities. Does it have a coffee maker? Is the Wi-Fi good? Because a lot of these jets have horrible Wi-Fi. Yeah. Then we have the investors. So these are individuals that have a need for private travel, okay? And maybe through a broker or someone, they figured, hey, I can buy this airplane and I can put it in a charter company that has a Part 135 certificate, and they can use my jet to transport other people or cargo and offset some of the cost of ownership. Now, I never present it as them making money because that's usually not the case. It's more of they will offset the cost of ownership. Then we have charter companies. So these are, Part 135 operators that obviously their business is transporting people. So they're going to need a private jet, twin piston aircraft, whatever it is, they're going to need an airplane. Now, I will say with charter companies, usually they have their own sales department. So it's something to keep in mind. And I wanted to add student pilots as well in here because when I was a flight instructor, I realized that some students start training just to get their certificates, become a pilot, and that's it. But there's another type of student that they have a business. They're pretty successful. And they start renting this airplane and they realize, man, this is expensive. Is there any way, because that's the businessman's mentality. Is there any way that I can either offset the cost of this or make some money? So they realize, hey, I can maybe buy an airplane, I can do my training in that airplane, and then lease it back to a flight school. Again, offset the cost, or in some cases, make money. So those are the types of aircraft owners. Now, let's talk about the different types of operations. Have you guys heard 91 versus 135 operations? Okay, so 91. 91 is for personal use. Now, not only personal use, but it can also be for business use, okay? And then Part 135 is for charters. So a Part 135 certificate is a certificate given by the FAA that allows a charter company to transport people or cargo for compensation, to make a profit. Now, obviously the feds say, hey, well, if you're going to be using an airplane to make money, we're going to be more strict with you. And it makes total sense. I mean, people's safety is in the line here, okay? So a big difference between both of them is the maintenance requirements. For example, aircraft manufacturers, engine manufacturers, they put out these documents called service instructions and service bulletins. So service bulletins usually are to inform aircraft owners of potential hazards, modifications that they recommend, or safety issues that they want the owner of their aircraft or engine to fix. Under 91 operations, not required, okay? Under Part 135, there's a rule there that says that the operator that is using the aircraft under 135, they have to comply with all recommendations by the manufacturer. It's a recommendation, but under 135, they have to do it, okay? Actually, there's one more time, like service instructions and service bulletins can become mandatory under 91, and that is going to be if they're inside an airworthiness directive. But that's that's a bonus there. Exactly. Now, the reason why it's important to know the difference, and I'm going to give you a quick story, okay? So I had a client wanted to buy a Piper Navajo, and he wanted to put it under a Part 135 to make some money and, offset the cost. Now, he decided to do this without a broker. So he went to this brokerage, bought the airplane, brought it down to Miami, and started the process with the FAA to put it under a Part 135 charter company. In order to do that, the airplane has to go through a conformity check, okay? So for whatever reason, he calls me and he's like, hey, I want to sell my airplane. But I'm currently in talks with the FAA to do the conformity check, and I'm maybe planning to put it in a 135. And he just asked me, hey, if I put it in the 135, I'm just going to take the airplane out of the market. I was like, okay, that works. Well, when I started looking at the logbooks, I realized that the engines, even though they had about 800 hours, and the service instruction by Lycoming recommends overhauling that engine at 1800, it was at the 12-year mark. So within that service instruction, it also recommends aircraft owners to overhaul the engines after 12 years of operation. So, he was not able to put in a Part 135 without investing $150,000 to overhaul both engines. So that's the importance of using a broker, because a broker has the knowledge about aviation and can guide aircraft buyers on these little details, okay? Because if you get an aircraft buyer and they tell you, hey, I want to buy this airplane, I want to put in a 135, well, different rules for 91 and 135. Now I'm going to throw a bonus here. Have you guys ever heard of 91K? No? Yes? Of course you have. I just want to throw it in there because it's an addition. I just want you to have it in the back of your head. But um, in controller, have you guys ever gone and seen airplanes that say fractional ownership? Instead of saying for sale, it says for fractional ownership. So 91K are the rules that govern fractional programs. Now, not fractional ownership, fractional programs. Okay? So a lot of times, aircraft management companies or charter companies, they offer fractional programs. So essentially, you buy a share of an airplane, okay? But you also get benefits. So apart from owning part of that airplane, you get no repositioning charges. You get access to their entire fleet, light, mid, super mid, heavy. So if you need to do a longer travel, you have to go to Europe, you're not going to do it in a light jet. You're going to need a heavy. So those are the types of benefits that they give you with fractional ownership. Fractional programs. Now, there's another type of listing could say fractional ownership, and that is just an individual that is selling a share of an airplane, quarter share, half a share, whatever it is. But don't mistake both, like they're different. Fractional programs and an owner selling a fractional share, completely different things. Okay, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is because as an aircraft broker, you're just thinking, oh, I have to sell the whole airplane, 100% of it. Not necessarily. You could maybe when, as brokers, we need to find a problem and we need to offer a solution. Maybe the owner loves the airplane, but, they're just tired of paying all the fixed costs. So you can offer this solution to them. Hey, well, how about if we sell a quarter share? How about we sell a half share? Would that make things easier on you? So that's another solution that you guys can offer. Okay? Any questions? 91, 135, 91K? Nope.
It's kind of a little bit, little off track, but it's just about the overhauls. I don't know if you're gonna get to it, but can you like explain a little bit more about like overhaul? Because I know it's like engine, airframe, overhauls. Can you just like go over that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So let's start with, piston engines versus turbine engines, usually, different times. TFE 731 turbofan, I think the overhaul is like at 6,000 hours or something like that. And piston aircraft is going to be less, 18, 2,000, something like that. Now, under 91, you're not required to overhaul it. You can just continue operating it. With turbine-powered engines, I mean, at least you want to do a hot section inspection if you're not going to do the overhaul, okay? But 91, you don't have to comply with that, but under 135, you do, because there's a rule. And just so you know, we have the Code of Federal Regulations, and in that code, we have different chapters. For aviation is chapter 14, and these are parts within that chapter. So there's a rule under part 135 that says that you have to comply with all the recommendations by the manufacturer. It makes complete sense because the service instruction, is going to be a document that the manufacturer puts out to, tell owners, hey, we recommend that you do this modification, or we recommend that you overhaul the engine at this time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, just different times for different aircraft.
Different times for different engines. In terms of aircraft, I know some airframes are life limited, so they have I don't know, 15,000 hours of operation or stuff like that. But that's not all aircraft.
And just to clarify, can I talk loud enough, Raymond? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's good.
All right, cool. And just to clarify, the whole point of the overhaul and the hot section, like we just want to make sure the engine's healthy and it's not going to quit in the middle of flight. So that's why they recommend at a specific TBO, time for overhaul, that okay, let's take this whole thing apart, make sure it's okay, replace whatever needs to be replaced, and put it back together. As you can imagine, especially on a turbine engine, there's a lot of parts. That's why it can be anywhere from $350,000, $500,000, $1 million, $2 million to overhaul these engines. The value of the aircraft is in the engine. And then the hot section inspections on jet engines is where they will inspect the hot section of the engine and make sure that one of the most important parts where there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of explosions and stuff going on to make this thing go, is in good order. And so Part 91, you can do that, although there is conversation like whether or not that's, whether insurance companies like that, whether or not manufacturers like that, and all that kind of stuff. Mark, is there anything you want to add to this conversation?
Yeah.
This kind of your,
Yeah, briefly, each manufacturer of an aircraft puts out a Chapter 5, which is your aircraft maintenance program and life limited. And that's on the engine, the airframes, and that would be, say, Rolls-Royce for a Gulfstream. They'll put out their Chapter 5, and these are the instructions that you have to follow to keep the aircraft or the engine or the APU or the component airworthy. Part 135, right to the letter of the T. Part 91, which oftentimes in aircraft acquisitions, a guy buys a pre-owned aircraft that was Part 91, but he wants to put it on a Part 135 to offset his cost of ownership. That's where the gotchas can get you. So it's very, very due diligence during that technical due diligence during the acquisition process is absolutely key. The information is all out there. You just need to know where to find it, be the FAA website or through an AD program that you subscribe to JetNet and what have you. It's all out there, but you really have to do your due diligence, take the time and protect your client.
And I didn't introduce Mark, but obviously you see his shirts got with crew chiefs. I mean, they're a go-to resource for pre-buys. It's pretty much what they do. They know everything from pistons all the way up to the huge aircraft. So they're great resources. They even have a program where if you just want a mechanic basically on call that you can call because we're brokers. Like I don't need to know enough to fly. I don't need to fly the plane. I don't need to fix the plane. I need to sell the plane. But they even have a program where you can call them up and ask them. There's a subscription, and they'll answer your maintenance questions for you. So
Yeah.
it's a great resource. Definitely talk to him in between, when we have breaks and stuff.
You guys are our main customers.
Brokers.
I have a question. With 91K, do you have to comply with the overhaul since you're doing ownership?
So 91K is not as strict as 135. It's pretty similar to 91. Yeah.
But you have a little
so-
bit more leverage, right? With
Yes, you
91K, when you're sharing ownership, as far as complying with the overhaul 18,000 hours and all that stuff, right?
Yes, yeah, you have flexibility. But now sometimes what also happens is they are 91K, but then they're also 135. So if that's the case, at that point they have to comply with a more restrictive, which is 135. Does that make sense?
Trying to understand it a little bit better.
Okay.
For example, I'll give you an example. I have a Piper 28. I'm the only owner, but the expenses is a little bit too much, so I want to share ownership with you. When it's the plane is at 1600 right now, do we have to do an overhaul, or just because we are owners?
No,
We just go off 91.
you go at 91. Yeah. So so what you're describing is you as the owner of the Piper PA-28, you just want a partner. So you're gonna be under 91 because you're not using that airplane to transport other people or cargo or patients or organs to make a profit. You guys are just partners.
So according to my study, what I've been doing my research, I see that a lot of people online renting planes. What they do is they sell share of the plane, and what I'm studying is they trying to get off 135 and go 191K or something.
So that's 134 and a half. And I know.
I'm trying to understand the market.
Yeah. So first of all, that's illegal. Okay.
Yeah, right. You can't fly a plane and make money off of it without being 135. That's the general. You can't fly a plane, charge people to fly in your plane and make money. You have to be 135. Now there are ways to lease.
Yes.
And there are ways to get partners like a 91K, and it's just a ton of paperwork, but it is possible. Are all the people on Facebook that are doing all the paperwork?
Probably not.
But there's ways to do shares, fractionals, so.
Yeah, and to add on what you're saying, the FAA is cracking down on that.
Yeah.
Marco Island, close to Naples, south. There's a person that had a flight club, so he was sharing he was selling shares of an airplane for flight training, but then they were like charging for It was they're getting shut down.
Because when you're doing a 135, for example, a small aircraft, you gotta do 100 hours inspection.
Yes.
But when you are part owner of the aircraft, you don't have to do the 100 hours inspection, right? If me and you are owners of the aircraft, we don't have to do an 100 hours inspection.
For you guys, but
For
as
me
soon
and
as
you that are
yeah,
owners,
if you and I own it,
Exactly.
we're cool. We can do whatever we decide to do. But as soon as we start charging people to use our aircraft or letting other people use our aircraft, that's when it starts to get into the. By the way, 134.5 is a joke. Like there is no 134.5, but like
Yeah.
it refers to people that try to own it Part 91, but operate at 135 and not want to do the maintenance that a 135 would have to.
Known as gray charter in the
Yeah.
industry.
Very
Gray- Gray
dangerous.
charters are
So
illegal.
they're renting out their aircraft, but they can't do that.
They're renting it out and they're not taking care of it according to Part 135.
Right, right.
And by the way, the process of getting 135 from scratch, long,
A couple of years, a lot of paperwork.
long, long,
You
long.
buy one, or you buy an aircraft and put it on somebody else's certificate, and that's a whole nother thing, but, yeah.
Any other questions in regards to this?
Dry leases.
What?
Dry leases.
Oh, well, yeah, shoot. We're gonna get in the freaking weeds now.
That's, but dude, people do that a lot. At least where we were at, we had a 135 charter. And people would try to do the dry leases and then get wrapped up with the FAA pretty quickly.
MBAA does have, and I would put this in your notes, MBAA does have a good resource if you look up dry leasing. They have all the paperwork of like what you would have to do to make it. For example, I can dry lease my airplane to you, my jet to you, but I can't give you pilots. You know, you've got to find your own pilots.
Maintainers,
Give them the
fuel.
plane and then.
Yeah, I mean, there's, yeah, I don't, that's just the one I happen to remember.
What was that?
You don't have to
name
do
again?
one.
MBAA,
Cause it's
National
on there.
Business
I'm just letting you
Aviation
rent
Research.org.
it. Use my-
They have if you type in Google, MBAA dry leasing,
135.
great resources.
The- Whoever's gonna rent
Whoever
it.
the operator is.
MBAA taxes,
Even like the first one?
you know, when we start to talk about, you know, how that all works, flyaway states and all that stuff, they have good resources for that.
You can drive
So dry
it to
lease.
them, but
I'm
they
understanding,
have to-
They
so
have
it's basically renting
to-
a
to
plane.
make money with
Yeah.
them.
But they
Okay.
have to find
So
their
it's
own
more
pilots.
so like a
Right, so he owns a
Yeah.
plane, I'm
It's
gonna
a
dry
company
lease
that
it.
would dry lease.
All I get is the asset.
If you provide-
Right.
I gotta go find my own plane, my own pilots, gotta find my own maintenance, I gotta.
Right.
And as soon as he starts telling me what to do,
Yeah.
Then it's part.
now it's getting close to a
They run it like a
135.
real business.
Yeah.
He pretty much just has to give me the asset.
Yeah, okay.
Do
As far as like
programs
charter that they
like the overhauls?
Yeah.
Isn't that like insurance?
If it's on programs.
A lot of guys that dry lease, they're like, well, who do I use for a pilot? Oh, I'll give you someone to use it, or use a mechanic. Oh, I'll give you someone to use it. Now or now.
Yes, so it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
by
getting in
default,
that.
You're already falling into those
Right.
guidelines, got it.
But there is a way to do it.
All right, so we're gonna talk. Why do people buy an aircraft? Okay, 8 reasons. Number one, time savings. Jets are literally a time machine. I mean, if you want to go from Orlando to New York, I mean, depending on the private jet, it will take you 2.5 to 3 hours. If you're gonna go commercial, I mean, it can take 8 hours by the time you drive to the airport, go through security. And the cool thing about flying private is you get to FBOs like this. You know, so you bring your car over there, you walk in, and you go straight to your jet. So time savings, tax write-offs. So if the aircraft is being used for business purposes, you have some tax benefits. There's this thing called bonus depreciation. You were able to depreciate 100% of the aircraft, but that is phasing out. Last year, we were all the way down to 60%. This year, we're at 40%. And in order to write off that 40% of the aircraft, you have to buy it before the end of the year, and you have to get at least one flight in the aircraft to get advantage of that. So last year, December came, I was busy because people were, oh, I need to buy an airplane. I need to buy an airplane because I need to take, and we need to do it in 1 month. It depends. In a jet, I don't see it really happening. There's too many moving parts to it, but in a piston aircraft, you could probably pull it off. I mean, I did. So, so maybe this year is going to be the same thing. People wait till the last minute, you know, and December come, you're gonna get busy.
And just a point of clarification on the bonus depreciation, if you're using it as a business tool, you can write off the entire, if you buy a $2 million jet, you can write off $2 million. It's just now, instead, you can do 40% this year, and then the rest gets in a timetable. So like eventually you'll be able to write off $2 million for the asset. You just can't do 100% in that year. Whereas 3 years ago, you could.
Yep,
You could
exactly.
I have a $2 million tax bill, I'm gonna buy a $2 million jet, it's done. Now it's, I have $2 million tax bill, I'm gonna buy a $2 million jet, and I'm only gonna be able to write off $800,000, and then my account has to take care of the rest over, 3 to 5 years, whatever the schedule is.
All right. Number 3, business tool, to increase productivity. If you have good Wi-Fi in the plane, maybe you can take conferences, you can work on your business. So yeah, it can be used as a tool to increase productivity. Security, safety, and privacy, I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. If this person is famous person, I mean, they don't want to go to a commercial terminal. They want to go through private terminals like this, maybe with security or whatever the case may be. Also privacy. I mean, they don't want to be seen by by normal people. Number 6, remote destinations. So let's say an individual buys a ranch in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and the closest airport is Dallas Fort Worth, but then it's a 2-hour drive from Dallas Fort Worth to the ranch. But there's a small private airport, pretty close to it. Well, hey, that can save a lot of time as well, get to remote destinations. Number 7, hobby, leisure, and family. I mean, how cool it is to own your own airplane, whether it's a piston, turboprop, or jet, and go to the Bahamas for the weekend with your family. I mean, that is freaking cool. Or just go from, I don't know, Orlando to Naples to eat lunch and then go back. And then last one is training and learning how to fly. So that was the a student pilot. Maybe they buy an airplane to learn how to fly and get their licenses. Okay. Any questions on that? Nope. Okay. All right. The general rule of sales. There's only 2 reasons why people do things. And one is to solve a problem. Someone is going to hire your services because you can solve them a problem. And number 2, they fall in love with the action or outcome. So the next slide is going to be why people sell. And we just talked about why people buy. Okay. So as an aircraft broker, we're trying to solve a problem. So we need to find the problem. What is that problem? Okay. So why do people sell their aircraft? Change in mission, more or less range, speed, capability. Maybe their family grew. They have more friends. They need a bigger airplane. Another one. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. Are we gonna have access to the slideshow?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can do that for sure. Let's say they got all of a sudden into snowboarding, and they want to go to Aspen for the winter time. And now they have all the snowboards, all these bags, and they realize that the baggage compartment in their aircraft is not big enough to carry all these things. So they need a bigger airplane, bigger baggage compartment. That's a big one. So when you guys are dealing, what I do is when I have an aircraft buyer, I ask him questions like, what is the longest trip that you're going to do, in a year span? How many people? But I also ask him, how much baggage are you planning to take? That's another big question that, can dictate the type of aircraft that is going to fulfill their mission.
Like even golfers and surfers.
Yes.
Those add-ons at the airport. They're not cheap. It adds up, especially if you have a group of guys going out playing. That adds up.
I'm going to give you a funny story. So I went to Milwaukee to pick up a group of golfers.
Yeah.
Okay. To take them down to the majors, the golf tournament in Georgia.
Oh yeah, that's the Masters.
The Masters. Yeah, in Augusta.
It's major.
Yeah, it is major. So they showed up. Every single one of them came. It was seven guys, pretty big too, with 7 golf bags, and each had their own suitcase. They did not fit in the baggage compartment. So literally, we had to say, we had to tell our company, hey, bring a citation to take the bags. So we took the people in one airplane and the bags in another one. So you imagine the bill on that. Number 2, they want an upgrade. They want something newer, faster, or more efficient. In the case of a buyer who is an owner-operator, maybe they want better avionics. Maybe the avionics, I don't know, like for example, Citation 10. You also have the Citation 10 Plus. The 10 has like really old avionics. The Primus 1000 with, old Honeywell FMSs. Maybe they want to upgrade to the Citation 10 Plus, which has the Garmin package. Something like that. they bought another airplane or they bought another yacht or something, and they just don't have the money to keep up with everything. Number 4, liquidating assets for business, divorce, or death. I'm going to give you a little piece of information here. If you guys are ever involved with a seller that went through a divorce, during closing, you're going to have to present a divorce decree if the airplane was registered under their last name, their old last name.